And it's meeting of Monday, March 25th. We're on the third floor in the fire facility in the multi-purpose room. My name is Jeannie Jenkins. I have the pleasure of chairing this board. I'm going to ask my fellow board members to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Gary Corey.
Hi, Tom Haley.
I'm Jean Connor.
Ed Woods.
Thank you very much. And also with us tonight is Dan Montz, Assistant Town Manager, Nancy Lively, who takes excellent minutes every single meeting, and Jim Vyers, who is on the CAT TV camera, making sure that if you can't be here in person, you know what's happening at this meeting. Thank you so much. All right, as always, we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Gary, would you lead us? Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Gary. Oh, and Tom, would you read the our vision statement that guides our work?
There it is. Bennington is a welcoming, engaged, inclusive, resilient community where everyone, regardless of identity, shares in our vitality and benefits from an outstanding quality of life.
Thank you very much. All right, next we have the consent agenda, and I'm going to ask if we can split the minutes of March 11th into the addendum, which was the executive session, and then the regular minutes, since we weren't all at the executive session. Could I have a motion for the purposes of discussion? Could I have a motion to, you're looking at me funny. Could I have a motion to approve the executive session minutes?
So moved.
Could I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Gary abstains. All right, thank you. And then could I have a motion to accept the consent agenda, which includes the minutes, the public minutes of March 11th, the warrants, and the liquor licenses?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second, for purpose of discussion, I have a quick question.
Thank you. All right, any discussion?
Does anybody know who Maruti Inc. is?
It's the corner market on Benmont Avenue.
The corner market on...
On the corner market on Benmont Avenue.
Thank you.
Yes,
Line 37 on page 2. I think that the word mini is supposed to be many.
I don't see it. I'll believe you. Okay.
You don't see it?
No, but that's okay.
Line 37.
Okay. Oh, 37, sorry. Okay. All right, any other questions? No? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right, perfect. All right, so let's move on to public comment. And we have, first up, Mary Morrissey speaking about meeting reminder.
Good evening. I'm Mary Morrissey from Bennington. Just a reminder, next Monday, April 1st, there will be a hearing here at the firehouse at 5:30. We have the facility till 7:30 if need be. It is in regards to the Bennington Health and Rehab, the changeover of what is being proposed there. And hope folks will come out and get more information.
Great, thank you, Mary. And thank you for organizing that meeting. It is not a town meeting. Bill, did you have something about that? Come up to the mic.
Sorry. Bill Clark, resident of Bennington. I just wanted to let people aware the elevator just broke, so the elevator is down. I didn't want anybody to try to hop on and get stuck in the elevator.
Okay. For tonight?
For tonight.
Okay, thank you. All right. Thank you. That's very timely.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Oh, did you get stuck in the elevator?
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay. All right, sorry. Let's see. Clark Adams, Day of Recognition.
Good evening. I remain Clark Adams of Bennington with no anticipated changes. A couple of things. Day of Recognition. Today in this country is National Medal of Honor Day. That may not mean much to many people, but that is the highest award you can receive in the American military for heroism far above and beyond the call of duty in combat. Since the Civil War and all the wars we fought, there's been approximately 3,000 of these medals awarded out of the millions of soldiers and sailors and airmen who've served this country. That to give you an idea about how difficult this medal is to earn. There are only 65 living recipients left in this country. The last World War II recipient died approximately a year ago. For me, my own personal honors, I've met at least 3 of them and had the pleasure of being able to say I shook their hands. That said, I would hope that we all in this town not forget these people and all they've done to allow us to be in this kind of situation. To a more lighter note, I realize I said one thing, but this popped to mind. I was going over last week's minutes, or last meeting's minutes, and I want to correct what's attributed to me that, in fact, my concern over that $1 million grant that was done was I asked specifically, is this going to be in the form of cash, tax credits, or a grant to who? That was the thrust of my question, and I don't recall hearing an answer to that, but I wanted to clarify the meeting minutes. Thank you for your time.
There was a response. You responded.
And I believe
yeah.
Shannon did too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm not sure. So what you're saying is, what line is it?
Looks like line 106 in the minutes, but as I specifically recall asking, the question was, is in the form of grant, cash, or some sort of tax credit?
So minutes are not, minutes are never verbatim. I mean, that's okay, but the answer is right there from Shannon Barsadi. This money will be coming from the state through HUD as an economic development initiative to Hale Resources, probably for the child care center, but will be flowing through the town like other funding does for housing.
Again, cash, tax credit, or grant. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, Bridget Elder, senior callback.
Hi, I'm Bridget from Bennington. I had read a little while back, and I'm not sure if it was on their website, the sheriff's office was talking about a new program to have a senior callback. My mother-in-law used to have that where she lived, and it was terrific. The police would call you, you didn't answer, they'd come to your house. And, you know, it worked because there were a lot of seniors in the demographics here. There are a lot of seniors. So I called the sheriff's office to find out more about it, and it's not happening yet, but I'm hoping, it sounds like a great program, I'm hoping that they move forward with it, because I think that would be a greatly beneficial to Bennington.
Great, thank you very much. Bridget, did the sheriff's office happen to say, are they putting out a press release when they do activate it?
They said it was supposed to happen in April, but it doesn't look like that's happening now.
Okay, all right.
That's all I know.
So stay tuned, it may happen in April or later.
I hope so.
Okay, all right. Anybody else that didn't sign up? Well, I heard a yeah. Oh, Sam, was that you? Your yeah? Okay, come on up. Sorry. It's echoing. Please introduce yourself.
Excuse me, sorry I was a little late tonight.
Please introduce yourself.
Yes, Sam Racino, Bennington, Vermont. I was just running a little late. Question on the peanut roundabout. From my thoughts at the Bennington Banner, the last time that was brought to the select board meeting was about 3 years ago. I see about a month and a half, they've been clear cutting I want to know if the town of Bennington has any expenditures on this project, or is it totally funded through the state of Vermont? That, I don't have answers on that. So I've been trying to get answers from DOT, VTrans, and I know it's on the manager's report. Be it known that I'm going to be asking questions on the manager's report. Secondly,
Sam, if you have any questions, ask them right now, because as you know, the manager's report is just a report out, so if there's anything besides expenditures...
but it's an agenda item.
No, it is not. It's a manager's...
It's an agenda, it's on the agenda.
Sam...
Define the word agenda. It's posted, it's on the agenda.
Sam, the manager's report is just that, and the manager, in fact, is
Well, I'm
not...
going to ask my questions.
All right, well...
Onto it. For VTrans, I want to know what the expenditures on that peanut roundabout, and has it been decided on it, and is it going through? There have been numerous discussions on that as well. I want to know how much is it going to cost the town of Bennington for taxpayers. Secondly, I find it very detrimental to our town. As you know, Easter is coming up. We've got a $500,000 playground. We're not having an Easter festivities at Willow Park. No, we settle for indoors in a pool. And you want to embrace this town, and yet you're shutting down. Nobody embraces it. No town, no organizations. You're not counseling. Better Bennington, a few other places, Chamber of Commerce. You got really something going here, and that's in somebody's childhood. And we don't have an Easter egg hunt, whether Park McCullough has an Easter egg hunt, and North Shore Lions Club plans it. Down in Pownell, they've got something going on. And Bennington just sits on the wayside. Thank
Sam,
you.
you're at 30 seconds. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Excuse me a moment. Excuse me just a moment. I didn't... Anyone else? Are we good? You're it? Okay. Please state your name and...
Maria Corrales.
I'm sorry.
Maria Corrales. There's been a lot of publicity regarding Jim Carroll accepting responsibility for his DUI, and that's commendable. And that's commendable. But there was no discussion ever about him lying to a police officer.
This is not the forum for this.
Bad stop.
Thank you.
I'm going to stop you now. Personal...
Deflecting, but I'll continue on and go to the next sentence. Okay?
Please, no
Yes,
personal...
Yes, I will.
Pieces.
So, in that line of thought, I'd like to understand how Bennington Community Market hired him.
So Bennington Community Market is not a town function. So I'm going to stop you again. If you have questions about the community market, you should address them to...
So that's not a town function when select board members vote?
No. Nope.
Understood.
It is not. So any questions about private entities or nonprofits should be directed directly to them. Thank you. All right, anyone else? Okay.
Jeannie, I'd be happy to respond to at least one of those questions. And just to set the record straight with regard to the roundabout, that's a state and federally funded project, and I will have more in the manager's report.
Okay, perfect. Great. Okay, so next up is the Bennington Career Month proclamation. Wendy Morse, the regional manager for the Department of Labor, and housed in Bennington, is here. And Wendy, you're going to read the proclamation, yes?
Yes.
And then we will sign it. And this is maybe third year we've done this? I'm trying to think.
Yeah, it's probably the third year we've read it. Yep. But of course, April Career Month is 11 years old. So, and I do want to thank the Select Board. So, whereas Bennington County Workforce and Education Committee stakeholders, a robust, grassroots, community-based, collaborative, inclusive of members from community organizations, institutions, and employers, and whereas Bennington County, consistent with the state of Vermont as a whole, faces workforce challenges that includes but is not limited to current and forecasted labor shortages, declining labor force participation rates, and misconceptions of local job and career pathway opportunities. And whereas Bennington County Workforce and Education Committee stakeholders are instrumental in effectively collaborating on resolving workforce challenges one project at a time, and whereas Workforce and Education Committee stakeholders develop specialized K through adult continuum of career pathway exploration projects that help raise awareness of opportunities, improving current and future talent pipelines in relation to engagement with the local job economies, and whereas Workforce and Education Committee stakeholders remain keenly in tune with project impact evaluation, trends, opportunities, and challenges within the local workforce economy, and whereas the month of April is Bennington Career Month, a culmination of events and activities in Bennington County that celebrates career pathway awareness at every level and recognizes the positive impact collaborative workforce development has on labor force employers in the Bennington County economy, and now therefore be it resolved that we, the Bennington Select Board, do hereby proclaim the month of April as Bennington Career Month. And this is dated today by the Bennington Select Board. So thank you. And I do want to just take a quick moment just to review some of the really great activities that are being planned for the month of April. And I will say 11 years ago, this was supposed to be a week, like April Career Week. And it's really expanded into a month and beyond, actually. Some of these events are closed specific to student populations and some are open to the public. So on Wednesday, April 3rd is How to Dress for an Interview, and this is something that is sponsored by Hireability, and it will be held at the State Office building. April 4th is a college fair specifically for high school students at MAU. Friday, April 5th is Shadow Day series, and it's actually the end of Southwest Tech's Shadow Day series, which students from all sorts of schools in Bennington County, Arlington, Burton, Hoosick Falls, they spend half a day at Southwest Tech and explore their programs. Wednesday, April 10th is Arlington Art Day, and this is for pre-K through 12th. It's a grade art exhibition, and this is going to be at the Martha Canfield Library, and it's open to everybody from 4 to 6. The Do's and Don'ts of Interview Speak is also sponsored by Hireability, and this is, there's actually 2 sessions, 10 to 11 and 3 to 4, and again, this is at the State Office building. Friday, April 12th, Molly Stark Career Carnival. Wednesday, April 17th is a mock interview day, again at the State Office building. We have a Vermont SBDC, a Start Your Own Business seminar, which will occur at CCV. Healthy Kids Day on April 20th, sponsored by the YMCA. April 22nd is, and actually here, so it'll be the Bennington Workforce and Economic Update. MAU Middle School is going to have a career fair on April 24th. April 25th is Burton's annual Career Expo. April 26th is CCV's open house. April 1st to June 2nd, calling out all artists. So some of you might be aware of this already, but the museum does a wonderful student art show, and that's going to be from April 1st to June 2nd. March through April, there's actually student competitions at Southwest Tech, so those students are already competing in a variety of different things. Throughout the month of April, Vermont Department of Labor hosts virtual workshops. So there's resume workshops, virtual interview workshops, and virtual reemployment strategies workshops. And of course, on May 16th, there will be the Spring Job Fest, and that is sponsored by Department of Labor, Hireability, Veterans Home, and the Chamber. And that will take place right at the Deer Park, and that's a really cool event. It feels just like a farmer's market, but you're actually looking for a job, which is really neat. And hopefully the weather will be good. So that just kind of gives you a sample of all of the great things that are planned for April Career Month. There are full calendars or full schedules in the back, and we will be posting these for everybody to see. And it's also on the, I will say it's also on the BCRC website. So it's bcrcvt.org/workforce. And the schedule is listed there as well. And I also want to thank all of the folks from the Bennington County Workforce and Ed who put all of these awesome things together.
Thank you very much. Yes, Jean.
Have you contacted the banner to, great.
Oh, yes, yeah. Oh, and thank you for that, because what I neglected to say, actually, is there will be columns. There'll be great columns in the banner. So there's op-eds about career pathways from people that are here, which is really great.
Thank you very much. And we have a proclamation for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amy. Thank you.
All right, so April will be busy. All right, thank you, Wendy. Now, we've invited Margay Diamond, who is Executive Director at Turning Point, to be with us tonight to give us an update on what is happening with the motel voucher program. This is intended to be a look forward in terms of, Margay has really taken a lead in making sure that the outreach to those housed in motels has been appropriate and thorough. And so I think she has worked with many partners, but Turning Point has absolutely taken the lead on this. And so I am really, really happy that she's able to be here tonight to give us more information about what is happening now and what we should expect in the next month or so. So please. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Margay Diamond. I'm the Executive Director for Turning Point Recovery Center in Bennington, and I'm a resident of Bennington. I was asked to talk about the motel voucher program tonight, and I'm going to do that in the context of the outreach that I'm responsible for. I want to set this up by saying, just reminding folks who aren't clear about what the outreach effort looks like in our community. Turning Point was able to secure a grant through the Department of Mental Health, so it's state, federal funds flowing down. It's a one-time 12-month grant. That is funding a collaborative effort for boots on the ground and street outreach into our community. That outreach is led by Turning Point, but consists of partners of UCS, AIDS Project, the Homeless Shelter, Pathways, Agency of Human Services, and GBEX. So we have many partners who have staff that are collaborating and going out 4 times a week right now. So we go out Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturdays. We are circulating through the motels that have voucher population. We hit up Harvest House. We are at the Community Cafe on Saturdays, which is in St. Peter's now, I think, for the winter. We are out and about actively trying to connect with people. The purpose of this whole effort is to connect, to create some trust with folks who, many of them have been sort of avoiding the care system. And we are specifically focused on unhoused folks or housing insecure, right? So I would consider folks who are in the motels on vouchers to be housing insecure, right? So that's our focus. Now, as an outreach team, we don't control housing, but what we can do is connect people to resources, get them on what's called the coordinated entry list. And the coordinated entry list is a master file for the state of Vermont that certain agencies have permission to screen and enter people on. BROC is one of those agencies, BCCH is one of those agencies, Pathways is one of those agencies, Turning Point is not. So we partner, right, where everybody has their own expertise to pull in. So there have been a number of housing applications that have gone on during this whole time that we've been doing outreach. The Agency of Human Services has had dedicated field workers that have been trying to meet with folks in the motels one-on-one. So there have been lots of different efforts at different points to connect. Now, I just want to remind people that the be-all end-all is to get on this list. And this list, people are screened for things like disabilities, education level, any kind of barriers that might be in their way, health-wise, mental health-wise, all of that. And it ranks them and puts them on the list. So I couldn't say to you, if you came to me today and we did all the paperwork and put you on coordinated entry, I couldn't tell you how long the wait would be, because depending on how you're ranked next to other people's needs, you might shoot way up to the top of the list, right? If you're a disabled single mother with children, you might, boop, be up there really top of the list. So it's difficult for us to give anyone any promises about when they would be eligible for a housing unit. We know that there aren't enough of them, period, right? Not everyone is going to get housing. It's just a fact. But the first step is to get folks on the list. And that requires them to sit down and do some paperwork with a caseworker. So we have been very successful at moving people along and getting them on this coordinated entry list. I want to remind people that the population in the motels today is I see it as 3 buckets. It might be helpful to think of it that way. Bucket number 1, in my mind, is our COVID voucher people. These are folks who are still there from being housed during COVID, and if you remember, some months back, most of them were exited from that program. The folks who are still in there have disabilities and children, okay? So that's one population. They are okay until June 30th. Now we have another bucket. Let's call it bucket number 2. Those are people on a general assistance voucher. We call it a GA voucher. That is, my house burned down last night and I need somewhere to stay. Okay, it's an emergency situation that people will get a set number of days for. Usually it's 28 or 84 days, depending on their circumstance. Okay, and that's always been going on. That's not a new thing, that's an always thing. Then we have the third bucket, which was adverse weather conditions, right? So the state extended vouchers to folks during a period of time to house them during the worst of the weather. And this year, the end date for that was March 15th. In prior years, it has been April 15th. It has always had an end date. It was earlier this year. But we also knew about that for months. This was not a surprise. It was not a surprise to the people. It was not a surprise to us. So March 15th was the date for that population to exit. And so they're out, most of them. I'm going to talk about what happened to that population in a minute. What we didn't expect was to all of a sudden, within 24 hours, think we were going to have a pop-up shelter here, which obviously didn't transpire, but it caused a bit of a ruckus. Certainly the people who were planning on checking out Friday morning had no idea that was happening. So a function of the outreach team was that we came together, emergency meeting, Friday morning the 15th, first thing, got the official word from the state, where the shelters were going to be, how many days they were going to be open. We worked with Green Mountain Transit to make sure there were buses available all weekend starting that day to take people to Brattleboro if they wanted to go. So that outreach team really mobilized quickly and was able to produce a flyer way ahead, hours before the state came out with their official notice, and we hand delivered those to every single motel in Bennington and Manchester before 11 a.m. So that's what we tried to do so that people were as aware of their options and resources as possible. Most people chose not to go. So hats off to Green Mountain Transport for turning on a dime, making those buses available, getting drivers without complaint, without asking where the money was coming from. They just did it. So I really give them a lot of credit for responding so quickly. And one person took the bus. One. So those pop-up shelters were not well attended. There were a handful of people in Rutland, I think max 5 one night. Brattleboro had 2 or 3. The only shelter that is still up is the one in Burlington. That one has seen much more use and was not limited to just people coming out of the motels. So they already have a fairly large unhoused population, and so some of those people were able to take advantage of the indoor resource there. So they have that one still running. But otherwise, they've all been closed down. We're back to normal. The raw fact is, of the 62 individuals that we had identified that were coming out on Friday the 15th, a vast majority of those ended up getting disability waivers and were able to extend their stay. Some of them are outside, some of them found a couch, some of them left, right? But I would say the vast majority were disability claims that had been pending and not processed, or appointments that just hadn't been had yet to get a doctor's sign off. So a good portion of them are still there, will be able to get back in once their disability waivers are signed, and we're working diligently on that, making sure people can connect. It's very tough when people are unhoused to they sometimes don't have a phone, and so getting them to appointments and getting them to things on time to advance their progress gets challenging. But we're doing what we can. It is not more people this year, I'm told. When I talk to the Bennington Housing Authority, when I talk to BCCH, the number of people that were coming out from a cold weather exemption this year, despite it being a month earlier, was not more people than in the past. What's different is we already have a larger than usual population that are outside. And that's, left over from the COVID exits. So those were, quote, able-bodied people in that first group of COVID people who were let out of the motels. And many of those did not find housing and are outside. So it's anyone's guess what the numbers are, but we just added to it, is the point. So we do have a number of people who are living in their cars, who are living outside. There are no official encampments or any areas like that. So we just continue to circulate among the food bank resources and other areas where people come and try to connect and offer them what we can. The bottom line, everybody wants a safe, stable place to stay, right? And that is a matter that's a statewide problem, not just a Bennington problem. And there needs to be a bigger footprint for affordable housing statewide. So I think those are conversations that I'd be very curious to hear what Dane Whitman and others are working on. I'm sure he'll have some updates to come. But there's lots of conversation. I think we will hear some forward movement on what the plans are. But that's what I know for now.
Great, thank you. That's very, very helpful. I'll start. Anyone on the board have questions for Margay? Yeah, go ahead.
That was a fabulous presentation. It was really succinct, and we could wrap our brains around it and really appreciate what it is that you do. So thanks for that. I have just a couple housekeeping questions. The 12-month period, is it December to December, January?
November to November.
November to November, okay.
Right. We're going to try to apply for continued funding.
Right. I'm assuming the Bennington County Coalition for the Homeless is full.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes, okay. And my last question is, these outreach efforts, it must be incredibly difficult on so many levels for so many different reasons. Do you feel, are the people more receptive of the folks that are visiting them? Do you feel like it's a positive and that you're making progress? I hope the answer is yes.
I do. Particularly, it's interesting because we've been tabling for about a month now at the Sacred Heart Pantry line that people, I think it's Wednesdays and Fridays, and we had 55 interactions one day, just standing there, because people line up hours early and just wait. So it's a really good opportunity for us to actually see the same faces over and over again, create a little bit of a rapport so people start trusting you enough to ask for help. So yes, I think it's very positive, very, very positive.
That's great. Thank you, Margay.
Super. You got a question?
I just have a quick question. You said that the first group of people that were being addressed that March 15th, or who are still being housed from the COVID vouchers, they were disabled and children. They are disabled and have children, both of those? And/or, okay.
Right.
Thank you. And I just want to comment and thank you and Turning Point and the group that you assembled. The fact that you were able to be proactive on the 15th before the state got its act together to address the public is commendable. So I thank you for that.
Lovely. Any other questions from the board? No? Are there questions from the audience? If you have questions, then what you will do, Ed will be timekeeper, so we'll stay to 3 minutes. You will address your questions to the board, and we will take the questions, and then Margay can answer as they're appropriate. So, Sam, you're up.
Sam Racino, Bennington, Vermont. As you know, that Thursday was mass confusion, particularly part of the day. There was no public comment. There was a public statement. But I surely thought by evening hours, around 6, 7 o'clock, there'd be some type of confirmation of what was the end result during the day. We got the end result that they were going to be housed in Brattleboro. Secondly, I'm questioning, the Governor Scott stated that the 4 shelter locations have been shut down. Have they still been shut down? And then why wasn't there a little more notification to the general public, because everything was going off the table? There was a statement from the National Guard that there was emergency housing that was going to be housed at our armory, and the following day, and naturally some people got whiff of it, and there was going to be public protest at the armory. So those are my questions.
All right, thank you. I think what we can say is we cannot speculate on the governor's decision-making. So it was very quick. It came up Tuesday night was the very first discussion. Wednesday afternoon was when the town heard from the legislature, from Representative Dane Whitman and Mary Morrissey. So, and there was, we can't answer for the governor. He will need to answer that.
I can answer your question about the shelter, though. I think I stated the one in Burlington is still open. They are continuing to stand that up because the general community is using it. They have quite a large homeless population as compared to ours. So they're going to continue to stand that shelter up for now, but all the other pop-up shelters are closed.
Sam, if anyone, no, wait and see if anyone else has any more questions.
And I'm going to second what Jeannie said, which is we can't speculate on that, but we were all just as confused as you are. Tried to make the best of it.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else? Clark, please.
Again, Clark Adams, Bennington. So thank you, Marjorie. I'm pretty impressed with you and your organization's efforts. What I would like addressing the board is strategically down the road, is there some way we can get into these state level decision makers, their representatives, to come here, or correction, the select board can invite these key individuals in the state government dealing with this issue to Bennington to have a public forum to speak with the people of Bennington about this issue. I would be Pollyanna to think that the select board can solve this. We can point fingers and ask people to get involved and kind of shepherd resources under our control, but I truly think it would be a good thing for the public to hear from the stakeholders at state level. You know, we talk about this message that came down, boom, all of a sudden out of these folks. You know, sometimes it's better to stop and think before you act. Sometimes you got to act and then think. But I really believe it would be good if the select board could invite key individuals or their representatives to come and meet with the people of Bennington and organizations like Marjay's and her corollary entities, to sit down and look strategically, long-term, because this is not a quick fix. We're going to need a long-term, consistent course of action here. And the more people know and the more people that are brought into it, I think the greater chance for some positive outcome. Thank you.
Thank you. I will say there are two avenues, and I think you can elaborate a lot more on this. One is Project Alliance, which in fact is in part formed to address these kinds of issues, and it does include all those folks. I will say that the emergency shelter program did not involve the usual players, so it was truly out of left field. So that was sort of a one-off, I hope. But there is also a program, a certification that is going on right now, which is we have to have our local emergency management plan in place by May 1st. We also have to put in place a regional emergency management plan, and in some ways those are a bit boilerplate, but I think that given what just happened, it's given us a lot of pause to say, let's look at this a little differently, because now we know a little bit more about our shelter capacity, our limitations. We know a little bit more about chain of command and how organizations should be engaging with the town and public safety and vice versa. So I think it really, in a sense, gave us a tabletop, demonstration of what it would look like if we had an emergency. And luckily for us, this one played out not well, but it played out in a way that we all kind of went, that's not what we expected. So I do think we have a couple opportunities coming up, and I think our representatives should be there filling us in and letting us know what's going on. I'll give it to you.
I don't have anything to add to that.
Okay. Nancy is up next, and then Deb.
Nancy White, Bennington. I appreciate all the work that you've put into this over the past year. I think everybody agrees we need more housing in Bennington, countywide, statewide. Homelessness is not just a problem for Bennington, but it's for the county and the rest of the state. Last week, the Banner reported that the County Homeless Coalition is getting $500,000.
Nancy, address your question to us, and make sure it's on topic.
It's on topic.
Okay.
But the Homeless Coalition didn't make a statement. I raised concerns over the past year that Project Alliance doesn't appear to have held public meetings, so Bennington residents don't really know what their agenda is, other than it appears our town has been targeted to be the permanent homeless shelter for all of Bennington County. Are there any plans? Is anyone looking at the Manchester area? Because Bennington has done this by themselves for 20 years. This is not what the Select Board and the public signed up for 20 years ago. And I hope if there's a plan to go out and buy a place, that they're looking at the Manchester area, because we cannot continue to be the only town having everyone from Bennington County come here. All it's going to do is raise up our local homeless population.
Was there a question?
Yeah. Does anybody know what the plans of Project Alliance have for that $500,000? We heard about motel.
Oh, okay, so the question is, does Project Alliance have any plans for the $500,000 that was earmarked for BCCH?
So those funds are funds that BCCH applied for. They are funds that BCCH is going to be utilizing, and I can't comment on what their plan is for that. But that's not Project Alliance per se funding. Project Alliance is really an umbrella of all of us. It doesn't have funding per se. It's about how we coordinate and tackle problems together and reduce harm in our community. So it's really about the way we work together primarily. And so I can't comment on how BCCH is going to use those funds.
Great. Deb?
Debbie Bennington. I hope I can verbalize this well.
Sure can.
I know somebody on the program, and it's my understanding that part of the requirement is that there's a list of things they're supposed to be doing, which
Can you say what program?
The motel hotel program.
Okay.
And I haven't been able to find out what's on this list. But I do believe looking for housing is supposed to be one of them. So I saw an ad for an apartment, and I gave the information to this person, and you could have knocked me over with a feather when I was told, oh, I've been trying to hook up with Brock for over a year. Now, how can somebody go over a year on this program without somebody knocking on their door and finding out what's going on or I just feel that, I'm not saying everybody, but there are some people that I've seen are abusing the programs. And I don't know what a disability qualification is, what is the degree? If I have a disability that flat out qualifies me for anything and everything, this whole thing is disturbing to me, and I don't know if because there isn't enough staff to follow up with these people, and I don't think, or I would think, that the Brock office is part of one of the legs of this, that they should have to be out chasing these people to get them to comply with what they're supposed to comply with. It just, and the whole homeless thing, if we have mentally ill people, I don't care, you could put them in a penthouse. I don't believe they would be happy there. I think the individual issues need to be dealt with. The mental illness, if it's an alcohol and drug problem, that should be dealt with. I mean, if the mentally ill need to be put into an institution where somebody's helping them to guide them in the right path, and the other people that flat out just don't want housing, they just looking to come and go as they please, maybe a little bit of education on how to keep a place, on how to budget. And I tell you, it's upsetting to see these people out with the latest and the greatest phones in their hands and smoking their cigarettes or vaping. Pack of cigarettes is over $10.
Deb, you're almost out of time.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that Margay can talk about the requirements and also about coordinated entry, maybe a little differently. Yeah, thank you.
As far as I understand, the disability waivers are pretty strict, and they require an actual doctor to sign off on them. That means that you cannot work or have a serious restriction on being able to work. That's really the primary piece of the diagnosis. So I don't know if anyone here has had a new person come to town and try to find a primary care person or try to get a doctor's appointment with a specialist. It's pretty hard. So there are lots of barriers in people's way, and I don't want to diminish the fact that there are always going to be some people who game the system. That's just life, right? Yeah, they're out there. The vast majority of people actually do have some kind of disability. They do have families with children. And if you are being asked to come up with first, last, and deposit, you are being asked to have a good credit rating, you are being asked to have no criminal record. I mean, this is what people are dealing with, and it makes it very difficult for them to just pop onto the market and get an apartment. So that's why, as you point out, caseworkers should be dogging them. Now, outreach workers in my team can connect them to the caseworker, and then that has to happen, right? So we're not doing intakes for housing, but we're putting them in touch with, and we're warm-handed. Most of the time, we have that person with us for them to sit down. We run into a lot of problems with people not having ID. Can't do anything without ID. And if you've been unhoused and shuffled around for long periods of time, you might not have all your ID. So these are kinds of things that we don't all of us think about in our day-to-day, but they can become very big barriers for folks who are starting from ground zero, like I don't have a license, I've got nothing on paper, and I have to have all that stuff on paper to take one step forward. So we do help people with those things. We take them economic services, we make phone calls with them, but it takes time. So I just want to point out some of the barriers that people face, not as an excuse, but just as an explanation that sometimes these things take longer than you would like to get people all the way moving forward. And again, moving forward means on the list, right? So we can't magically fabricate more housing. They could be on the list for a while. And in that case, what do we do after June 30th? Right? Both those populations are going to be out after June 30th, and that's where we are looking to our legislators in the state for some help about growing this footprint and what is going to be a good next step for the community. Right? We don't want to just rehouse and Band-Aid the problem continually. We are really trying to find long-term solutions to move people forward.
Yes, anyone else have a first question before we go to the second? Did you have a question?
I just want to make a comment about what you mentioned. If a newcomer moves to Bennington and just tries to get a primary care physician, how difficult that is. That stands out in all walks of life, particularly in this population, because they need that medical provider to assist them in the process.
Or a mental health person, right? So if we're talking, and that's a lot of this, right? We have a lot of mental health challenges. And in order for people to get the help they need insurance or some way to pay, and for that you need ID in order to sign up, and just backtrack it, right? And then there's a long waiting list at United Counseling Service. They do a wonderful job, but there's a long line of people who need help.
These lines are long for people that have resources. I just want to remind the public. We have 2 fairly new providers at SVMC Internal Medicine. That was great. We thought terrific. We have 2 new providers, and they are booked out. We have a relative who recently moved here, can't get an appointment until the end of the summer. This is somebody who has ID and resources and ability to communicate, so we can't forget how difficult that is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sam?
Sam Rustino, Bennington, Vermont. Thank you, Chairman, for allowing me to speak again. Very touchy situation. What's our next step? We've got motels and hotels that have been used 3 or 4 years to house these vouchers. I truly believe that there are vouchers out there. Are you going to be compensating hotel and motel owners to get back on track so we can have lodging at a wonderful state of Vermont, so when people come into our state, they have some place to stay?
Not sure that's really...
I think that, that's really a question for motel owners. That's their decision, whether they want to host individuals using vouchers or whether they want to have paying customers. Yes, please, come on up.
Hello, this is Maria Corrales. So my understanding that Section 8 is available for people who have jobs and don't have jobs. And I believe the criteria for a family of 4 is you can't exceed $90,000. So I don't think that the vast majority of these people are missing documents. I still think it's a housing shortage issue, and specifically that. So why aren't we just building housing for them?
Well, we are working on building housing. Ben High is a project that we have all watched develop in excruciating detail, and that is a mix of affordable and market rate housing. We also have Putnam Phase 2 and 3, which is a mix of affordable and market rate housing. All of this takes time. There was a proposal that was put forward, to do some rapid housing. It did not get state support, so it did not go forward. So, I think the town's role in this, as I think we've said many, many times, is to make sure the infrastructure and the conditions are there so that housing can proceed. The town is not going to be a landlord, but the town can make sure that we do everything we can possibly do to make sure that housing is ready to be built when someone steps forward and can build it. And that includes public-private partnerships at Ben High. So, yeah, I mean, you have no disagreement from anyone that housing is the issue. And, I think back to all the work that Shires has done in the last 12 years. The housing development on Silver Street, the housing development in Perrin, at Village at Perrin, Lake Perrin, whatever what's it called? Perrin Acres. Perrin Acres, okay. They have rehabbed a number of really derelict buildings in town that have been affordable housing. We are moving as quickly as we can, and it's clearly not fast enough. We all agree it's not fast enough. We're doing what we're doing. It is a focus, so we're working on it as quickly as we can.
Jeannie.
Thank you. The only reason I ask is
Dan.
I constantly see land everywhere, and I see grants coming in, and I was like, shouldn't homeless be the number one issue we address? Shouldn't be.
Well, people want to build. Go ahead, Dan.
So, Jeannie, I think we all agree that there's a housing crisis in Vermont. Unfortunately, the town of Bennington can't solve that housing crisis. It really will take state and, in fact, federal resources. The state legislature is looking at, I think, some groundbreaking legislation. I don't know if it'll make it through. I think the governor, in a tripartisan effort, put forth a very, very effective bill to address the housing crisis. I don't know if it'll make it through the legislature. Unfortunately, that it does seem to be bogged down. But we need significant changes to state regulation and state laws in order to make a dent in the housing. It is a true crisis. I don't think anybody can pretend that it's not, and it's a much bigger problem than the folks in this room, and only with significant state effort will we even make a dent in it. And I don't think we're looking at a decade long, at least, even if we make changes now to adequately address the issue. So it's a huge issue, and it affects every part of our life in this state and in this town. And so I would say to everyone here, tell your legislator, get it done this year, because we can't wait any longer.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Questions on this issue? No. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret.
All right. Next up, Better Places Grant Resolution.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Shannon Barsati, Community Development Director. So switching gears, I'm coming before the Select Board to let you know that I'm preparing an application for the Vermont Agency of Commerce and Community Development's Better Places Grant Program for the Bennington Skate Park project. So Better Places is a community matching grant program to create vibrant public spaces serving Vermont's downtowns and village centers. So this grant application will seek $40,000 in state funding for the new skate park and will require the town, in partnership with the Bennington Skate Park Committee, to raise an additional $20,000 through a crowdfunding campaign. So you may remember that the Better Bennington Corporation also did a Better Places grant crowdfunding for the Thursday Night Live music series that they were successful with. So the difference with this one is we can actually apply for more funding because it's a permanent, build out and installation of a skate park. So, so that campaign would begin around the 1st of May and then run through June 30th. And then what we'll need from the Select Board is a resolution to apply for this program. Essentially, this resolution is assigning Stu Hurd as the authorized individual for the town of Bennington to accept the grant funds for the project. And I'm happy to answer any questions about it from the board or from the public.
So for the purposes of discussion, could we have a motion to accept the municipal resolution? Is that what we're doing? That authorizes Bennington Town Manager to apply for, accept, and expend grant funds from the Agency of Commerce and Community Development. Thank you.
And for the purposes of discussion, I'll second it.
Okay, discussion? Oh, bunch, Tom?
I just want to make it clear for everybody here, Shannon, that this in no way would come out of taxpayer funds. These are strictly voluntary donations that would be collected.
Right. So the crowdfunding piece, essentially, we, the town, with the committee, the skate park committee that's come before you, we have to create this platform. This one is, I'm sure everyone's heard of GoFundMe. Well, it's called Patronicity is the platform. So they kind of coach us through that process of creating this platform. And if we're able to raise through private donations of anyone from Bennington and beyond, if we can raise $20,000, then the state, these are state funds that are housed in the Agency of Commerce and Community Development. They match our $20,000 with $40,000. So that's our goal, is to get that full $20,000.
Great. Jean?
I'm assuming it can be personal donations or donations from a business?
Yes.
Okay. And I think everyone knows I am not a Debbie Downer, but what happens if we don't reach the $20,000 goal?
As I understand it, we have to raise the full $20,000 in order to, but we have 2 months, so I feel...
We will raise it.
I feel confident.
I just wanted to get that clarity.
A little light. Yes. Ed? Oh, okay.
I have one question.
Yes.
What happens if we raise more? Do we get more money from the state?
We can't get more than $40,000 from the state, but great if we raise more than $20,000.
That's a good question.
That is a good question.
All right, so we want to raise 40, even though we only have to raise 20.
Right.
All right. Any other questions from the board? No. Sam, come on up.
Sam Racino, Bennington, Vermont, once again. So is there a time limit to raise this fund of $20,000? Simply because we just came through a serious vote in March. We're an aging, I emphasize the word, aging community. Yes, I'm up there in age too. We set a goal to raise funds. I find it very difficult in this town to raise funds when we're so strapped with bonds and expenditures and sewer repairs and water repairs and wastewater treatment and fire department and police department, and we want to raise $20,000.
And this is not taxpayer money, but go ahead.
My response?
It's 2 months?
Oh, yes.
It's 2 months, as you indicated.
Right. We have 60 days. We're going to start the campaign around May 1st.
Perfect. Nancy, come on up.
Does this resolution...
Please introduce yourself.
Sorry, Nancy White. Does this resolution only pertain to the skateboard park?
Yes.
Okay. Because when I'm reading that, the authorized official will have permission to sign all the investment documents that bind, I just want to make sure this isn't a town policy that's getting approved.
No.
This is only for the skateboard park. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Come on, Clark.
Again, Clark Adams. My question is, we get to 20,000, get to 40,000. How does that fit in the overall picture of funding the skate park? What is our town financial obligation in the big picture here? So we've got $60,000. I'm no construction guy, but $60,000 doesn't go very far when you're talking about building something.
So you want to repeat? Yeah, you went through this earlier.
Right. So we've had a presentation from the skate park committee and town staff about the skate park proposal, and we have a bid from Grindline, which is a construction and design firm that builds these skate parks all over. And so the total cost of the proposal that we have is $900,000. And so the select board has authorized $300,000 in ARPA. The committee is raising an additional $300,000, which this 60 would be part of.
Okay.
And then there's another $300,000 coming from the penny for parks, which is a municipal tax that every year brings in a little over $100,000 to the town. So we already have that fund. So we essentially have already committed through the town select board $600,000. And we're just trying to get to that $900,000, or as close as we can. If we have to scale the project down a little bit, we're going to do our best.
So in other words, this 60,000 we're speaking of here is, again, part of what a previously agreed upon or accepted funding source. So this is, okay, thank you.
Other questions? Anyone? No? Are we ready to vote? All right, all those in favor of the resolution motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, all right, so I will sign this.
Thank you, Shannon.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next up is manager's report.
Okay, thank you. I do have one last-minute thing to add to the manager report. I didn't have any action items on the report, but I do have one now. So I came in late on Friday. A little bit of background on the action item. You folks may recall, or you may not recall, because it's been about a year. The town had passed a bond for the Gage Street water line upgrades. So that was passed on March 7th in 2023. Also, you will recall that the state had granted funds to the town for the Settlers Lane Waterline project to address PFOA issues. So those two projects are ongoing. We wanted to proceed because we have received bids, and we are, one of the things we have to do is apply for funding from the state formally, and the documents that are required are loan applications, although the Settlers Lane Waterline is 100% forgivable, so it's essentially a grant, but it's structured as a loan. And then, as you know, the Gage Street Waterline projects, that will be funded by the bond proceeds. So we have to, and in fact have, submitted to the state previously these loan applications. The state has now requested that we combine the design and construction applications into one. And I'm just going to read this because this was prepared by MSK Engineers, who is managing the projects for us. So the Gage Street and Settler Lane loans were submitted to the state in summer of 2023. The state has confirmed that these submitted loan applications are now in process and has requested that we combine the values of design, referred to as Step 2, and construction, referred to as Steps 3, into a single loan for both the Gage Street and Settlers Lane projects. Previously, these loan applications were submitted in two parts, which is standard. Because the submitted applications have not been processed and design and construction bidding is complete, the state has asked for a single application to streamline the process. So all we're asking you today is to re-sign what you signed before, both for the Settlers Lane and the Gage Street waterline upgrades. And I have both of those loan applications here before you. And there are unfortunately only 5 lines for signature because most of the state only has 5 folks serving on the select board, so I added a couple lines, so feel free to sign those if the 5 have been filled up. But all I would need is a motion to sign the loan applications as described, and then Stuart will authorize them and send them into the state.
Great. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we do what Dan asked us to do.
To sign the loan application as described. I wrote it down.
That's perfect.
Yes. All right. Any discussion from the board? And I will allow discussion from since this is an action item.
So
we're amending this to a new loan application? Is
Well,
that
it's
correct?
not really an amendment, it's combining, it's the design and construction phase loans into one loan applications, because the state hasn't gotten to the loans yet. They want to just do them all in one shot instead of having to do two separate ones, since we're now well past design, and we've actually have bids already for construction that are within the parameters outlined by the state and the town. So that's really all they're doing, is combining two previously submitted loan applications into one for each project.
Okay. I guess I'm just trying to wrap my mind
Yeah, no,
around
it took me a while too. I had to read it a few times, so.
Could this make it go faster? Because they could approve one.
I think they don't want the bureaucratic process of having to deal with two separate loans. They want to do just one for each one.
Dan, I have a question on the forgivability of one versus the bonding of the other.
Can you just bear with me for a second while I ask that? Because I still...
So this is remember the PFOA project, this is a Settlers Lane project. The state has granted or promised funding to the town to address that issue on Settlers Lane, the PFOA contamination. That is structured as a 100% forgivable loan. The other one is a loan that will be repaid from the proceeds of the bond that was approved on March 7th of 2023 for the Gage Street waterline upgrades. And you'll recall how we discussed how that would lower costs over time by bonding up front.
Does combining these still keep the forgivability clear?
Yes, 100%, yes.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, that was my follow-up question.
No, these are identical to what was submitted before, but now it's combined into one instead of two. And I don't know why the state, other than bureaucratic reasons, wants it to be one application instead of two. But that's the process they're hoping to have. And the numbers that match exactly from what we originally applied for.
So the original agreement will be going to the shredder.
Well, there was never an agreement, it was just an application that was never processed.
Well, whatever, the application,
Yep.
okay. And this is really petty, but I don't know how petty they would get. It's Settlers Road, not Settlers Lane, I believe.
Well, that's what the memo said, unfortunately, and you're correct. I should have recognized that as I was reading it.
I just didn't know if that needed to be absolutely correct.
No. It's, that's in the memo, not in the application.
Okay, all right.
Are we clear? All right.
As
Questions
much.
from the audience? Anyone have a question on this? I think we're making a bureaucratic move here. Okay.
It's purely
All right,
bureaucratic.
so we have a motion, and it's been seconded. Are we ready to vote? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sorry.
Pass those down, yeah. There you go. Moving on to just informational items, and on the manager's report, a few things to just mention. As has been mentioned in previous manager's reports, the town is moving forward with a vehicle impound and an animal control building at 204 Orchard Road. Permits have been submitted or permit applications have submitted for the local permit. And there's a pending DRB, Development Review Board hearing coming up on April 2nd. Note, we have confirmed that no state permits are required, so that project is proceeding. The other item that I just want to make folks aware of, the town of Bennington did put out to bid a portion of the Ninja Trail. Most of that bid involved the construction of a pedestrian bridge over Furnace Brook. Unfortunately, the town did not receive any bids for that project, so we will be reviewing the bid documents, talking to contractors, and rebidding in the future to attempt to move that project forward. Unfortunately, we have seen, and I don't know if this is unique to Southern Vermont, I don't think it is, we've seen extremely difficult bidding environment. In fact, for the two projects that we were talking about, we got one bid for one of those projects and only two bids for the other project. So I don't know if it's that contractors are busy or they don't have enough staff, et cetera, but we're seeing some problems getting bids So unfortunately, that's the facts with that particular bid process, which we are going to move forward with a rebid in the future. Everybody's read about the congressionally directed spending for the Putnam Block and the Ben High project. We want to thank Representative Becca Ballant and Senator Welch for those for that funding. And then relevant to the Silk Road roundabout, folks will notice, as Sam has mentioned, that work has begun on that project. That work is to relocate utilities in anticipation of the construction of the actual roundabout. I did just learn from VTrans last week that they plan to bid out the actual construction of the project this summer, probably about midsummer. They anticipate that construction may begin as early as fall, but they expect that it won't begin until spring of 2025 because the contractor may not want to mobilize in the fall and then remobilize in the spring. So it does appear likely that roundabout will be constructed in the next construction season of summer of 2025. And that's all I have.
Super. Thank you. All right, upcoming agendas. So next meeting is reorganization, and we'll welcome 2 new members, and also vote on chair and vice chair. I think we will hear from the street naming committee. Apparently the total eclipse is playing into their plans as well, but we'll see how that plays out, but we should have something from them. And then it sounds like we're in the process of setting up another meeting with Hometown Heroes Committee. That last meeting was very productive. So hopefully we will have that on the agenda. If not this next meeting, then the one after. So that's where we are. Anybody know of anything else? Okay. All right. So then we're up to other business. All right, well, in other business, we have 2 members for whom this will be their last meeting, which makes us sad because we'll miss them both, but hopefully they'll come back and visit, particularly with Candy. And I think we want to give all of us a chance to see. We're thinking we'll start with Jim because he has 12 years on the board, which is a good long time. And I think Jean has a statement from Jim.
I do. So this is from Jim. I'm just going to read this on his behalf. To the people of Bennington, serving you has been the honor of my life. Thank you. To my fellow board members, past and present, it's been a great privilege, and we accomplished a lot of great things in the past 12 years. My father often said, Bennington is a beautiful collection of beautiful buildings, but without the people of Bennington, it is nothing. I wish only the best to all of you. Jim.
It's very touching. Yeah. I think Jim's love for this community is well known, and we've all experienced it. I will say that if you ever wanted to know anything about history of Bennington or what made it tick, Jim was the man to go to. He was always looking for the best in this community, and we will miss him on the board. I'm just thinking over the 12 years. 12 years ago, I think, is about when Shires really started doing their real housing push. I think like the Silver Street Monument Apartments were about 12 years ago. He was here for the YMCA, coming in on the management agreement. He's been here for Putnam. He's been here for Ben High. The greatest hits, right? Yeah, it's been a lot of very good years. So, Jim, we will miss you.
I have something to say.
Yeah.
I prepared a statement for Jim. Jim, I hope you can appreciate how much you will be missed. You are one of the most honest people I have ever known. We share a commitment to always tell the truth, and you are more than willing to share how you feel, which is something else we have in common. You are genuine, compassionate, and love Bennington with all your heart. I know you will stay engaged with the business of the Select Board, and I will welcome your ideas and input. Thanks for your years of service to Bennington. You have left your mark. I wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you. Thank you. Are we ready to move on to Gary? Gary, do you want to say anything before we say
God,
something?
after what Jim said and had written down, I should have had him write something.
Hey,
for
you've
me.
only been here 3 years. You've only been here 3 years, all right?
It's hard to believe it's 3 years has gone by so fast. I'm honored to have been on this board and honored to work with all of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone want to say words? Oh, Tom's up.
I'm first. Actually, I want to say, Gary, I really appreciated the thoughtfulness you brought into the role. You asked questions that I'm just about certain none of us else would have thought to ask, and I really valued that. And I value the fact that I'm pretty sure I may not have ever met you if we hadn't been serving on this board, and I'm very happy that transpired. So thank you for your service, sir.
Anyone else? Yeah.
I've known Gary a long time, like 30-plus years, I think.
It's a long time.
Long time. But this was new. This relationship was new. So Gary, I know serving on the Select Board was not easy for you, considering your professional responsibilities that don't allow you a lot of free time. I am grateful you somehow found the time. Your thoughtfulness, your knowledge, your approach, your temperament, and your perspective as an architect are the perfect formula to be an extremely effective board member and human being. While I wish you had run for another term, I certainly understand why you didn't. Thank you for serving on the board and for all the lessons you taught me and for the chocolate.
Gary, I'm not going to be as eloquent as our other board members. I just want you to know that you being on this board set an example for me, and it's one of the reasons that I'm here. And I am very grateful for that example that you set. So thank you for the hard work. It's been a real pleasure working with you.
And you're
all looking at me now, so.
Okay, go ahead.
Your card is in the mail, Gary.
Perfect.
Yeah, and I just want to say your honesty and your incredible thoughtfulness. I agree completely. You would ask a question and we'd all go, huh, hadn't thought about that. Just really, really, your thoughtfulness, your calm manner in what is not always a calm board has been much appreciated. You've been it's been a pleasure to work with you, and I wouldn't have met you either, probably. So I'm really happy that you served on the board. Thank you.
But in regards to the chocolate, you're still going to bring that.
Now I've got to bring it for everyone.
All right. Well, with that, is there any other business anyone wants to share?
I just want to remind people again about the lead line replacement money that's available for people that possibly have lead lines. If you were approached by MSK, please call them because there is money available to get your lead line replaced for free, which is going to come to an end.
Thank you for that. All right. Well, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, nobody has to second it, right? Okay, who's the second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Happy Easter.